The skies above Carrick's prime wept blue lightning. Commander Alara Voss watched from orbit, arms folded behind her back, her expression as still as the vacuum outside the viewing deck. The dreadnought ISS Vindicator loomed in silent vigil over the dying planet below, oceans evaporating, forests charred to skeletal remnants, and cities sunk into ruin like the bones of some forgotten god. Her eyes scanned the scarred surface, as if measuring value per square kilometer. Signal confirmation received, reported Envoy 9, the hovering diplomat drone beside her. Its voice was smooth, artificial, carefully coded to sound empathetic without ever becoming emotional. Carrick's High Council has acknowledged our arrival. They're requesting immediate planetary assistance. Supplies. Medics. Aid. Alara didn't turn. Of course they are. Tell them we'll send relief units to landing zones Alpha and Theta. Begin deployment. Envoy 9 hesitated a nanosecond too long. Clarification. Is this a combat insertion or a peacetime operation? Her lips twitched. Same thing. Minutes later, the skies of Carrick's cracked open. Earth's aid did not arrive in white medical shuttles or charity fleets. Drop pods screamed down through the atmosphere, punching sonic holes in the air before slamming into the crust. They opened like metallic flowers, blooming with bipedal machines, drone swarms, and rows of heavily armored infantry. The Carruxian crowds waiting in shattered plazas broke into cheers until they saw the weapons. Voss descended last, stepping down from her transport like a queen surveying a conquered province. Her silver armor bore no insignia. She needed none. The silence that followed her footsteps was louder than the cheers had been. General Threx of Carrick's met her near the ruins of their capital dome. His fur was grayer than in the footage. He limped on one leg, ceremonial blade at his side, wrapped in faded royal cloth. "You heard our call," Threx said, voice trembling between awe and disbelief. "You answered." "I did," she replied, glancing around. "And I brought what you asked for." Threx motioned to the broken city behind him. "Our children starve. Our healers are gone. The Skarn left nothing standing but ash. Please, anything you can offer." "You misunderstand." Voss nodded once. A contingent of Earth's soldiers began unloading modular bunkers, turrets, and construction rigs. Military infrastructure, not hospitals. Earth doesn't do charity. We do contracts. This is a stabilization operation. You are now under Earth Defense Protocol 7.2.2. Congratulations. You're a strategic asset. There was a pause as her words processed. "You mean occupation," Threx rasped. "I mean survival," she corrected. A hush settled on the Carrick's delegation. What had been hope now flickered into confusion. A few of the younger warriors stepped forward, ears twitching. One reached for a blade. Earth's drones instantly lit up with warning lights, targeting reticles dancing across their bodies. Voss raised one hand lazily. "Don't. You called for help. You got it. But don't think we're here to be your martyrs." Threx took a long, weighted breath. "We thought you would understand mercy." "Mercy?" Voss looked toward the horizon where the broken shell of a cathedral stood blackened. "Mercy is a fairy tale told by the culpable. I understand consequence." Across the next few hours, Earth's forces spread like a calculated infection, precision placement, zero waste. Automated supply depots sprouted beside burned-out homes. Mechwalkers stepped through abandoned fields, scanning for residual Skarn presence. It wasn't aid. It was transformation. The Carricks watched it happen like ghosts, watching their own funeral. That night, around a fire of salvaged biomass, Alara reviewed her mission briefs as her boots rested beside her rifle. A Carruxian approached, small, cloaked, her eyes wide with questions. "You're the one they call Voss," the girl said. "I am. My mother died in the tunnels, hiding us. My brother too. We sent the message. We hoped for angels. You came in metal." Voss didn't look up. "And yet, you're still alive." The girl didn't respond immediately. "Is that all this is? Survival?" Voss looked up, gaze steady. "It always is." From the ridgelines, a rebel unit of Carruxians watched the Earth encampment growing like a fungus of light. The one called Jal, former student, now resistance tactician, leaned into a scope. They brought war machines, not medicine. Another rebel hissed, "They'll enslave us. Just like the Skarn." Jal exhaled.
No.
The Skarn wanted our extinction. These ones want something else. What? He adjusted the scope. Property. Far below, Envoy 9 hovered beside Voss once more. "Commander," it said, "scans confirm local insurgent activity. Likely remnants from the pre-Skarn civil factions." "Let them watch," Voss murmured. "The more they look, the more they'll understand who's holding the leash now." As the Carax's twin moons rose over their shattered world, the first human-forward base was completed. Steel replaced ash. Walls replaced ruins. And over it all, the Earth flag unfurled in the smoke-drenched wind, not as a symbol of liberation, but of dominion. In the silent hills, young rebels clenched their teeth. In the command tent, Earth's officers made plans. And in the skies above, the next wave of ships slipped through orbit. The plea had been heard. The response had just begun. The Caeruxian sun rose blood-orange behind the broken spires of Talvywire, casting jagged shadows across Earth's forward operating base Theta. Within its steel walls, the harmony of construction gave way to tension. The atmosphere had changed, crisp discipline now coiled tight with suspicion. Commander Alara Voss stood before a flickering holomap, her gloved finger tracing the valley below. "They'll come through here," she said, voice flat. "Same path the Skarn used to slaughter 3 cities. If they're testing us, they'll test us there." "Reinforcements arrived this morning," said Major Lin, stepping beside her. "Orbital guns aligned. Drone saturation at 70%. If they so much as breathe wrong, we'll bury them under a microsecond barrage." Voss nodded, but her mind wasn't on munitions. It was on patterns. Predictability was death in war. And the Skarn were rarely predictable. Down below, among the shanty ruins outside the perimeter, the Caeruxian population stirred nervously. They had food now, water, energy. But the aid came with fences, scanners, guards. The price of survival was subjugation, and it tasted like rust and smoke. Inside one of the makeshift shelters, General Threx sat with a young priestess named Soli. She had once sung at coronations. Now she poured ration medicine into chipped cups. "They do not see us as kin," Soli whispered. "They see us as material. They see us as risk," Threx corrected quietly. "And risk is a thing humans extinguish, not negotiate." "But we were desperate," she said. "They answered our plea. Why return fire for mercy?" Threx's eyes closed, heavy with the knowledge of empires. Because mercy isn't what they heard. They heard a door left unlocked. And they walked through armed. The first attack came at dusk. Without warning, plasma rained down from the canyon's edge. Skarn warforms burst from the mists like boiling nightmares, 8-limbed, carapace-armored, excreting vaporized neurotoxins. Caeruxian civilians scattered. Earth soldiers didn't move. They adjusted. Mechs rose from dug-in bunkers like iron gods. Drones dropped from the sky in neat lines, precision-guided death made surgical. But something was off. The Skarn weren't retreating. They surged, fast, uncoordinated, but overwhelming. A brute force blitz. Alara Voss watched the feed from command. "They're probing," she said calmly. "But not us. The Caeruxians. They're testing loyalty." And sure enough, some among the local militia broke ranks, joining the Skarn in chaotic spasms of violence. Betrayal, quick and blood-spattered, erupted inside corridors. An Earth engineer was torn apart by clawed hands that had once begged him for clean water. Voss didn't flinch. Lock down sectors Gamma through Kappa. Fire Protocol 7. Assume contaminated loyalties. Major Lin hesitated. "That'll mean Caeruxian casualties. Civilians." "So we're hesitating." With a subtle nod, authorization was transmitted. Seconds later, the Earth itself lit up. A grid of kinetic shock lances reduced buildings to vapor. Rebel cells vanished into red mist. The Skarn assault buckled, but the Caeruxian screams didn't. In the aftermath, Bodies lay twisted across the compound, Skarn, human, and Carrick's alike. Smoke curled through the gaps in shattered walls. Voss walked among the debris with the composure of a surgeon examining a failed organ. General Threx approached her, robes stained, face unreadable. "You didn't distinguish them." "We did," she said. "Just not the way you expected." They were confused. Desperate. "And desperation is a weapon," Voss said. "One you let sharpen." He stared at her, fists clenched. "You said you were here to help." "No," she replied, her voice cutting through the haze. "I said we came because you asked. What follows is on you." That night, Solai found the remnants of her shrine buried under collapsed stone. A surviving child huddled beside her. She looked up as Alara Voss entered. "What is this place?" Voss asked quietly. Solai didn't stand. "Once it was sacred. Now it's a tomb." "I've seen tombs," Voss said. "They don't cry." The child whimpered. Solai gathered him close. "Why do you kill what you came to save?" Voss stared into the broken walls, her reflection distorted in the firelight. "Because saving you wasn't the mission." "Then what was?" "Assessment." Solai blinked. "Of what?" Voss turned to leave. "Of whether you're a liability or a launch pad." In the silence that followed, only the sound of distant orbital thunder filled the void. Outside the compound, beyond the newly widened perimeter, Jal and the Kairuxian rebels regrouped beneath the ruins of an ancient monument. Their numbers were thin now, but their anger had only grown denser. "They're monsters," one hissed. "They burned their allies." "No," Jal said. "They burned their doubts." He looked up at the dark sky, Earth's ships glinting cold above the atmosphere. "They didn't come here to protect us," he murmured. "They came to see if we're useful. And when they're done?" He let the silence answer. Back at base, Voss poured herself a measure of synthetic whiskey. Not for the taste. For the ritual. She stared out at the horizon. "Report," she said to the air. Envoy 9 materialized from a hovering slot near the ceiling. "Enemy routed. Civilian unrest increasing. Moral evaluation pending. Requesting clarification. Are we to continue Phase 2 deployment?" Voss nodded. "Yes." "Fortify the southern shelf. Prep the deep orbital railgun." "Clarification. Are we escalating to total engagement?" "No," she said, sipping the drink. "We're preparing for the real war." Envoy 9 tilted slightly. "Against the Skarn?" Voss didn't smile. She never did. "No." Against history repeating itself. The message was clear. The plea had been received. Earth had answered. And Earth didn't do second chances. This was only the beginning. Dawn arrived as a warning, not a comfort. The skies over Carrick's Prime shimmered with unnatural light, burning streaks of entry vectors slashing through the atmosphere. Dozens of Earth warships broke from high orbit, descending like metallic angels of wrath. The air itself quaked. To the survivors on the ground, it was clear Earth was done watching. Inside the fortified command hub, Commander Alara Voss stood before the tactical display, her uniform crisp despite the sleepless night. Her reflection on the glass map flickered with the glow of pending fire missions. "Fleet assets in position," reported Major Lin. "Ground units standing by. Kairuxian rebel presence confirmed in 3 quadrants. Skarn remnants burrowing in canyon veins. Orders?" Voss gave no grand speech, no fanfare. Just one word. Execute. The first pulse strike erased the eastern ridge, where Skarn bionests had rooted deep. Orbital railguns followed, launching tungsten rods the size of buses at hypersonic speeds. No explosives necessary. The impact alone liquefied mountains. Whole swaths of the Skarn's defensive lines disintegrated beneath precision hellfire. Even the rebels fell silent watching it. From the west, Kairuxian insurgents scrambled as Earth's mech battalions advanced in synchronized columns. Plasma-resistant armor, zero-G-capable limbs, AI targeting that never blinked, every unit a walking declaration. This world belonged to Earth now. Jal crouched behind shattered stone, watching as one of his comrades was pinned by a drone and cuffed with magnetic restraints. The humans didn't kill unless provoked, but their message was the same: resistance is tolerated only as a form of study. He turned to flee but found himself face to face with Voss. No guards. No entourage. Just her. He raised his weapon, then lowered it. The look in her eyes told him everything he needed to know. It wouldn't matter. You could have left, he said. I still can, she replied. But you won't like what I leave behind. He gestured toward the smoke, the ruin, the screaming skies. You call this help? Voss didn't blink. I call this order. You don't belong here. Then make me leave. Jal hesitated, fury twisting into a knot of something deeper. You're not saving us. You're replacing us. I'm ensuring no one else sends a plea we can't afford to ignore, she said. We came because your desperation was loud enough to reach our stars. But now we're here. We're rewriting the ending. High above them, Earth's dreadnoughts deployed autonomous hunter kites, lethal swarms that descended with surgical grace. They didn't just eliminate threats. They documented them, cataloged DNA, measured fear responses. Earth wasn't just destroying the Skarn. It was studying the war for the next one. At the shattered shrine, Solai cradled another wounded child, her robes caked in ash. She looked up as Envoy 9 floated silently past her, scanning and recording. We didn't want this, she said aloud. We wanted a future. Envoy 9 paused, its lens rotating toward her. Earth ensures the future. That is our function. No, she whispered. That is your invasion. The invasion began with your request, the drone replied. We merely answered with capability. Solai stared at it, then at the human flags now raised across once sacred spires. We survived the Skarn, but we won't survive being saved. In the ruins of the rebel command post, Jal and his fighters surrendered, outnumbered, outgunned, and outmaneuvered. Voss watched them brought in, unflinching as her officers processed the captured without brutality, but without warmth. Major Lin approached, helmet under one arm. Final zone secured. Skarn resistance neutralized. Rebel infrastructure dismantled. And the Carracks? Voss asked. Scattered. Shell-shocked. Technically liberated. Voss let the silence stretch. Then, almost gently, initiate Terraform Protocol Delta. Begin permanent outpost installation. Lin frowned. Commander, if I may, Carracks isn't stable. They'll resist. They can resist, Voss said. But they'll do it under our satellites, drinking our water, breathing our filtered air. He nodded and turned to go, then paused. Do you believe we did the right thing? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped out onto the shattered balcony overlooking the city, once alien, now clearly in Earth's grip. Human banners waved beside half-melted Carraxian ones. The fire had passed. What remained was silence. Right and wrong are luxuries, she said. We dealt in necessity. Behind her, the Earth anthem played faintly from a nearby comm beacon. Not a song of hope, but of inevitability. Voss turned her eyes to the stars. Let them send another plea, she murmured. Next time, they'll know what comes with our answer. And far above, the stars did not blink.